All right, Domain 1, Visionary Leadership, Contemporary Educational Issues in California. The Williams Act, Transitional Kindergarten, iPads in schools, school safety, nutrition and child obesity, bullying and cyberbullying, and immigration status. Transitional Kindergarten is the Kinder Readiness Act, SB 1381, passed in September of 2010 and changed the birthday requirement for kinder from December 2nd to September 1. All children to enter at age 5, assuming that they're 5 after Labor Day. SB 1381 created that transitional kindergarten for students that were not at that criteria, and it requires all schools to provide transitional kindergarten if they're not going to accept them into traditional kindergarten. Voluntary for eligible children at the parent's discretion. It has to be credentialed teachers. They can have a kinder credential or an early education credential. The curriculum is designed around experiences and phases into the new age kindergarten requirements. Some districts kept transitional kindergarten, some got rid of it and allowed those students to enter regular kindergarten. Williams Act, it's a result of a California Superior Court case. California public schools must give access to conditions and tools necessary to learn, in-class and take-home materials, safe learning environment, qualified teachers. The act was established by Elazer Williams in San Francisco County class action lawsuit. Tools and conditions for learning. California is responsible for bathrooms, textbooks, etc. $800 million was provided to upgrade existing heating and air systems. Education on cyberbullying became a requirement, and Williams inspectors can come at any time to check these requirements. Domain 1, Visionary Leadership, Societal Issues and Trends. There's an increased prevalence of single-parent homes, racial bias and stereotyping, gender identity and LGBTQ issues, equity and access to technology and other resources, English language learners, bring your own device, BYOD. The divorce rate is up, families are moving into the same home, there's many working parents, and increased screen time for students. There's a belief about themselves, so students have less confidence in their ability to learn. LGBTQ is coming up more and leading to bullying, so there needs to be curriculum in place for that to be dealt with proactively. Title I provides education about this at school, but it's not at home, so just kind of a society issue there. Cultural barriers like parents not speaking the language, etc. Teachers of certain cultures teaching students of cultures that don't match their own. Bring your own device. It's a shortfall of devices. Many districts kind of went away from this due to the equity and access in question. Domain 1, Visionary Leadership, Student Learning as a Lens. You must always ask, how will it impact what students learn and will be able to achieve? Learning-centered schools use focused instruction to meet students' needs by having a vision aligned with instructional needs, classrooms with proper setups to support students, consistent quality materials, coherent schedule with minimum interruptions, implementation of student-focused discipline policies, bringing together a team of members in meetings so there's multiple stakeholders making decisions. And the meetings are directly focused on educational goals. Every person on campus is teaching students. Teachers must be able to use students in the setup of their success. Students become good citizens of the school environment. The agenda and intentions for student learning must be clear. They use examples, data, and standards to identify student needs by ensuring teachers are teaching and assessing, and it's aligned with the standards and clearly communicated to the students with a rubric or grading criteria. There's an authentic assessment, which uses portfolios for students to see their growth. Teachers are displaying quality student work, and teacher exemplars are non-examples. There's a collaborative analysis with teachers and admin to make instructional decisions for students. And there's data brought in at every point in that process to make sure that they're making database decisions for the students. Admin can help by creating targeted professional development plans that include an approach focused on teachers and student needs, mentorship or peer coaching, cluster leaders that develop and support principal and teacher networks. Target is defined as focused, lesson study teams, department leads. Domain 1, visionary leadership, formulating visions, goals, and objectives. Creating a shared vision. A school's vision is a vivid description of what it aims to do or be. The words and images can be used in conjunction, but it essentially says what is expected and when is it expected. Shared vision acts as a compass, so everyone is working towards that vision. If a vision is truly shared, it will be evident in the school's climate and culture. Climate, how it feels; culture, how business is done. An effective vision really entails multiple visions: the vision of oneself as the leader and what it means to fulfill that role, one's personal vision for the school, and a shared vision developed collaboratively with staff and community or all available stakeholders. It's important to listen to others and integrate perspectives for that buy-in piece. Factors to consider: who does the school serve? Are there any unique characteristics of the population? The special programs or services that might be needed for that population. Quality teaching is defined, and administrators work to place teachers in their quality according to their credentials. They have to be placed accordingly. Goals for learners academically, psychologically, socially, and physically. Measures of success are established. School-wide data usage and demographics, etc. There's a guidance and inspiration from the administrators to the stakeholders. Mission statements, the how to achieve a vision, purpose, priorities, requirements, operational cornerstones. Missions include goals. Goals are specific and quantifiable. Goals include objectives. They're very specific. They have a timeline. There's a tracking individual so that the objectives can help policymakers assess the feasibility of the overall goals, and they're linked with actions. Domain 1, visionary leadership, progress towards vision and goals, essentially SMART goals. Specific, what are you going to be doing? Measurable, how will it be observed and quantified? Achievable, ambitious is good, unrealistic is not. Relevant, it fits with the mission and vision. And time bound, there's a specific timeline for when it's going to be finished. Domain 1, visionary leadership, aligning vision and goals with policy. A school board functions locally with a specific district, such as city, county, state. This is an elected council that have legal agency of the state from the Department of Education. They're essentially the local government. They have the authority to create policies, rules, and regulations, overall system organization, site planning, construction, or demolition, finance and budget, salaries, equipment, etc., staffing and contract negotiations, school calendar, attendance of students, staff, and teachers, and curriculum materials. Domain 1, visionary leadership, the decision-making process. There are two major approaches. The rational model, all alternatives can be identified and an optimal choice is made. The bounded rationality model believes it's impossible to know all options or fully understand all outcomes. It relies on satisfying and compromising. First, best option that is above a minimum threshold is chosen. Some other decision-making processes include a heuristic, just simplify the problem and work from there. Intuition, so this is feeling based on perceptions of the stakeholders. Incrementalizing, so small changes. This is also seen as like muddling through the problem. Garbage can model, everyone throws in their opinion or possible solution, and you sometimes come up with incoherent choices. That's why it's not often used. Domain 1, visionary leadership. Consensus building. Consensus-based decisions are made by an entire group with each member buying into the final decision. All stakeholders share control and offer support. It's sensitive to the needs of all stakeholders and recruits advocates from the various subgroups. They set priorities for each subgroup and they get past the distractions so that they can make tough choices. The administrator must facilitate collaboration so that there could be an effective compromise. Domain 1, visionary leadership, education and common goal. The child benefit theory is a principle that allows the government to provide funding to private schools, religious schools, etc., so long as the funding only goes to benefit the child. This is cited in 3 large court cases. Cochrane versus Louisiana Board of Education in 1930 was its first instance. This was fighting to provide textbooks in all secular subjects. It coined the theory as it benefits the student to know all secular subjects. The second time is Everson versus Board of Education in 1947. This was in New Jersey, and it fought to reimburse funds to transport students to and from school. So essentially, it's kind of that establishment of busing and transportation to your school of choice. Board of Education of Central School District versus Allen in 1967 also cited the child benefit theory. This was a New York study that the school district must buy all textbooks and lend them to students. This is both private and public school. Students are not expected to buy their own textbooks. Education and crime prevention. So there's a connection between insufficient education and poor literacy and incarceration. So those are correlated. There's lower average literacy levels and more individuals diagnosed with learning disabilities in prison. And that was based on a study from 2003. Domain 1, visionary leadership, public schools governance in California, so parent trigger laws. Parent trigger laws allow parents to change the administrator in a low-performing school, and it often transforms it into a charter school. Parent empowerment laws, SBX 54, gives open enrollment at any other school for underperforming schools and provisions to attend a private school if the parent is able to provide adequate evidence that the home school of the student is not adequate. California was the first state to have these laws for parents. The LAUSD in November of 2009 proved outside management does not have to come from underperforming schools. So it's like as long as there's evidence that the student needs are not being met, even if it's not academic, the parent trigger laws can allow them to bring in exterior management. State has been transferred more control, so the resources, rights, curriculum, standards, state laws align with federal laws, but then they guide the expectations for all public schools. PSAA, Public Schools Accountability Act in 1999, holds students, schools, and districts accountable for improving student performance. The ESEA, Elementary and Secondary Education Act, 1965. This was signed by Lyndon B. Johnson, and it was the full educational opportunity, and it was the first national goal of education. It also had many civil rights laws and established various types of funding. So new grants for low income, Title I, federal grants for textbooks and library books, special education centers, known as SELPA, scholarships for low income, the FAFSA, grants for quality of education, categorical funds, and this was a response to a nation at risk. From there, there's No Child Left Behind in 2002, signed by George W. Bush. It exposed achievement gaps as each state developed its own standards. It developed basic skills testing and annual testing, progress reports, report cards for students and the school, and established requirements for teacher qualifications. It also created the adequate yearly progress model, one high challenging standard for all students, and military recruiters now have access to student info. This was based on the California Content Standards of 1999, and 100% of students were expected to be proficient or advanced. After No Child Left Behind, there was ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act, signed by President Barack Obama in 2015. This gave control to the states, and those states report to the U.S. Department of Education. It made testing in 3rd through 8th and 11th grade. Consequences for low-performing schools were set by the school districts. New subgroups were added to the dashboard, and all students received college and career counseling and advanced placement options. It strengthened vocational programs, and it had several effects in the years 1718, 1819, and 1920. The teachers were assigned solely based on their certificate. Program improvement was phased out for those transferred with low performance under NCLB. They continue to be in that program until the highest grade of that school moves on. This funds family engagement, homeless categories, etc. And then it introduces API. So this is Academic Performance Index. It's updated to the California Accountability Model and the school dashboard. So it's like the 5x5 grid, California and career indicator reports, etc. The NCLB had AYP, which was academic yearly progress, but it also had academic and non-academic indicators, but it just identified the 5% lowest in each state, and one or more of those subgroups were underperforming. High schools with a graduation rate less than 67%, they had 3 years to improve. If they're in that 4th year needing to improve, the state can intervene and assign specific administrators. Domain 1, visionary leadership, assessing the existing culture and climate. So defining a good school has positive culture, high expectations, high support, student achievement is high, and the responsible social behavior. Characteristics of high-performing schools in this category have a clear shared focus, that mission and vision, high standards and expectations for all students, effective school leadership, high levels of collaboration and communication, all stakeholders are involved, curriculum, instruction, and assessments are aligned with state standards, there's frequent monitoring of learning and teaching, that RTI model, focused professional development, focused in on student achievement, a supportive learning environment, non-disruptive, inclusive, high levels of family and community involvement. Powerful and authentic assessment, academic and moral character. The students feel safe physically, interact socially, grow intellectually. Everyone has a voice. Rules, policies, and norms foster respect and opportunity. The importance of walkthroughs, leading and learning by walking around LLBWA. 11 principles of effective character education. They promote core ethical and performance values. Character includes thinking, feeling, and doing. Comprehensive, intentional, and proactive approach to character development. School creates a caring community. opportunities for moral action, service, and volunteering, curriculum that respects all barriers are addressed, develops their character, and helps them to succeed, fosters student self-motivation, staff is an ethical learning community, shared leadership, and long-range supports. It engages families and community members as partners and regularly assesses its culture and climate. Domain 1 Visionary Leadership, establishing behavioral norms. To create a positive school environment, it is crucial to establish healthy behavioral norms, expectations, and consequences that apply to students, staff, and visitors. Key elements of a comprehensive behavior plan: a student handbook, rights and responsibilities, collaboration with students and staff in creating the norms. The law and parents are consulted to create a safe environment. Proactive approach that attempts to diagnose and prevent negative influences. Clear plan for conflicts, disruptive situations, etc. Support services like counseling, guidance, and external referrals are available. Rigorous curriculum for behavior, expectation, and character development. How students interact with adults, how adults interact with each other, and responsible citizens and soft skills are taught to students. That's it for Domain 1, Visionary Leadership.